thank you so much for that update. All right, news in your community and something being called a national state of emergency. The American Academy of Pediatrics mincing no words recently and sounding the alarm about what they're calling a children's mental health crisis in this country. Tonight, we explore the toll of this crisis on kids who haven't even turned the age of 10. This is the story of two mothers in our community struggling to help their sons.
My name is Colleen McKenna.
Two mothers.
My name is Mariluz Garcia.
Fighting like hell for their sons who struggle. Not only do these moms live hundreds of miles apart, but their stories represent a 10-year test of whether anything has been done to help their kids since Colleen McKenna's son first showed signs of a mental and emotional crisis. Kindergarten and first grade.
He was a beautiful child.
But by second grade.
He'd get angry and lose his temper. Even as a second grader, he talked about taking his life. Like, why should he be here? Which is a very, very difficult thing for a parent to hear.
Second grade.
And yeah.
That was more than a decade ago. Then, McKenna says in her state of Nevada, kids in crisis ended up in emergency rooms. Some were hospitalized for up to 3 days to adjust medications and then out with no follow-up care for her son or their family. Over the years, she says it was an endless cycle.
I had a 3-ring binder that was full of IEPs, doctor's reports, brain scans, and I put a big picture of him on the top of it so that every time we walked into a classroom, see, you made me do it. Sorry, it still hurts.
McKenna says the picture on that binder was so people would know.
Underneath all that paperwork is a kid.
By 2016, McKenna worked not only to save her son, but to change Nevada's system. She celebrated her county's mental health consortium as they set goals to save kids. Goals like more support, more services for kids and their families, an organized pathway to care, and a system managed locally, and also a big push to end stigma. Fast forward, though, to 2022. Now we're at 2022. And Colleen, how many of those goals have you seen come to life in our community and our state?
I've seen so little progress from the time my son was really in acute crisis, which was, I would say, 10 years ago to now.
Now a new generation of Nevada kids with the same struggles. One is the pride and joy of Mariluz Garcia, whose son is now where McKenna's once was.
The explosions, the chaos, those moments where they get deregulated and, they're not in the driver's seat anymore.
You'd think 10 years later, Garcia would have endless resources for her son, but she says when it's bad, help is hard to find. She's been told her son needs something called a psychosocial rehab specialist, someone who works in a family setting. She's on endless waiting lists and often hears this.
By the way, we don't have any PSR workers in our area. There's a shortage. And it's just like, you can feel it. It's there at your fingertip, but you can't attain it.
She's experiencing the same things I experienced a decade ago. We've talked about pediatric mental health getting better for how many years? Like, it's decades at this point.
Both these mothers told me they believe their government has failed their sons and their families, and the ongoing pandemic has only deepened their troubles. So in the next story in our series, I'm going to explore how the isolation of the pandemic made matters even worse and how families struggled to find the resources they desperately needed. That's coming up in part 2 of Spotlight on America.